My friends, tonight I invite you to journey inward, beyond the veil of appearances, to that sacred place where all things are conceived, your own wonderful imagination. For it is not the world that molds your life, but the silent, unseen forces of belief and expectation that shape the contours of your reality. You see, the outer world is nothing more than a mirror, faithfully reflecting back the inner arrangement of your thoughts and convictions. Change your assumption, and you change the world you walk through. Assume the feeling of the wish fulfilled. Not tomorrow, not someday, but now. And reality will reconfigure itself to match the image held in the mind and felt in the heart. There is no power outside of you determining your fate. You are the operant power. As you believe, so shall it be done unto you. Tonight let us uncover these hidden laws and awaken to the truth that what we expect with conviction, we create with certainty. You said, write 7 key points of this speech. Just name. ChatGPT said, sure. Here are 7 key points of the speech titled The Unseen Forces of Belief and Expectation. The world is a mirror of inner belief. Imagination is the creative power. Assumption precedes manifestations. Manifestations, expectation as a silent command. The law of consciousness in action. Feeling is the secret to reality. You are the operant power. You said, long explain point 1. Without headings up to 800 words, without concluding sentences. ChatGPT said, the world you see around you, the events you encounter, the people you meet, the circumstances that shape your days, these are not random, disconnected phenomena. They are reflections like images cast upon a mirror, born not from the external but from the internal structure of your own beliefs. To understand this is to begin seeing life not as a sequence of cause and effect rooted in the material world, but as a living echo of consciousness itself. The experiences you face are not imposed upon you by fate, chance, or the will of others. They arise from the assumptions you carry within, often unnoticed yet profoundly active. When one holds a belief, whether it is empowering or limiting, that belief becomes the blueprint by which reality is formed. These beliefs operate beneath the surface of the mind, often cloaked in familiarity, shaping perception in such a way that one begins to see only what aligns with those internal convictions. If, for example, you believe the world is hostile, your mind will filter every encounter through that expectation, interpreting even neutral actions as confirmation of that hostility. Likewise, if you hold the belief that life is generous, your eyes will be drawn to its blessings, and your actions will naturally lead you into situations that reinforce that view. It is not the outer world that must change first. It is the inner attitude. The outer world bends in response to the dominant beliefs held within consciousness. This bending is not always immediate, but it is certain. The moment you assume something to be true, even without physical proof, the world begins to move, subtly at first, aligning itself to deliver that which has been accepted as real. The change in belief acts as a silent signal sent out into the field of experience, and the world, being nothing but a reflection, responds with matching form. This process is often misunderstood because it appears to defy logic. The world teaches that action is the primary means of change, that effort and struggle are the paths to success, and that circumstances are fixed until physically altered. But beneath the physical layer lies a deeper structure, consciousness itself. That which you accept as true within yourself, regardless of appearances, becomes the seed that grows into form. The outer world is clay, shaped not by your hands but by your inner conviction. And once you recognize this, you no longer need to wrestle with conditions or force outcomes. You begin instead to turn inward, to examine the beliefs you carry, to notice what you consistently expect and assume, and to shift these quiet forces into alignment with the reality you desire. The mirror cannot change its image until the person before it changes their expression. The same is true for life. To demand a different outer world without changing the inner state is like pleading with a reflection to smile while frowning into the glass. It cannot be done. But once the inner expression changes, once you embody the belief in a new possibility, the mirror has no choice but to reflect that shift. The change may not come instantly, but it is inevitable. For belief impresses itself upon the subconscious, and the subconscious knows no difference between truth and falsehood. It simply accepts what is given to it and brings it forth. Most people are unaware of the power of their beliefs because they do not observe their thoughts or feelings with clarity. They believe they are reacting to the world, when in truth they are projecting it. A man who believes he is unworthy may enter a room and see only rejection, even if none exists. He may act in ways that invite dismissal, confirming his belief. Another who holds the assumption of worth may walk into the same room and command respect without demanding it. The difference is not in the world, but in the belief. This unseen force silently orchestrates behavior, perception, and outcome. When the idea that the world is a mirror is truly grasped, life becomes an entirely different experience. Responsibility shifts inward. One no longer feels like a victim of outer events, but a participant in a living dream shaped by thought and feeling. This does not mean blame, it means power. It means the ability to revise, to imagine anew, and to allow those imaginings to replace the old assumptions that have outlived their purpose. The moment you see that what you consistently believe is what you consistently experience, you step out of the illusion of powerlessness and into the awareness of your creative nature. This inner architecture of belief is not confined to the intellect. It resides in feeling. A belief is not just a thought repeated. It is a feeling accepted as truth. One may say 1,000 affirmations, but if the feeling of the belief contradicts the words, the feeling wins. The subconscious listens not to words but to the emotional charge behind them. This is why assumptions, those quiet inner positions we take for granted, are so powerful. They are not loudly declared but deeply felt. They operate in the background, generating experiences that seem to emerge from the world, but which in fact originate in consciousness. Your entire world, your relationships, your health, your finances, your opportunities, is a reflection of your internal configuration. To change the outer, change the inner. This is not wishful thinking or fantasy, it is law. The law that the world reflects belief is not something to be argued or accepted blindly. It is something to be tested. And when it is tested, when a new belief is assumed, and reality shifts in response, even in the smallest way, the truth of it begins to unfold. The world will never outpicture what you have not first accepted within. It may seem to do so, but only because unconscious beliefs are often so familiar, so deeply woven into identity, that their effect feels like fate. You said, long explained point 2, without headings up to 800 words, without concluding sentences. ChatGPT said, imagination is not merely a faculty of the mind reserved for artists, children, or dreamers. It is the creative power itself, the divine instrument through which all things are made visible in the world of form. Everything that exists, everything that has ever been built, written, spoken, or lived, first began as an image held within consciousness. Before it was seen by the eye, it was seen within. Imagination is the womb of reality, the invisible substance out of which all visible things are born. To understand the power of imagination is to understand the foundation of creation itself, for nothing can exist in your world unless it first exists in you. When one imagines, they are not indulging in fantasy, but participating in the most sacred of acts, the act of creation. The images you entertain, the scenes you play in the mind, the inner conversations you repeat, they are not idle, they are seeds. Unlike seeds, they do not stay buried forever. They grow, often silently and imperceptibly, until the day they break the surface and appear as events, conditions, or experiences. You may not remember the moment you planted them, but they were planted all the same, and the law of life ensures their expression. Imagination is not passive, it is directive. Whatever is impressed upon the imagination with feeling, with belief, begins to move into form. It is not bound by time, space, or logic. It does not concern itself with the question of how. The rational mind may object, may say something is impossible, but the imagination does not argue, it creates. It takes the shape of the dominant images it is fed, and the world, being an obedient reflection, adjusts itself accordingly. You may not notice the movement, because it is not always dramatic or instant, but it is constant. Just as water follows the path carved by gravity, life flows along the channels formed by imagination. Most people use imagination unconsciously. They imagine worst-case scenarios, play scenes of lack, conflict, or rejection, and then wonder why life delivers what it does. They believe they are responding to life, when in truth they are rehearsing it in advance through their imagination. The world is not the starting point, it is the echo. Imagination is the source. To imagine vividly and persistently is to impress the subconscious with a pattern that must express. You are not simply hoping or wishing. You are forming reality at its root level. The inner image is the mold, and the outer world must take its shape. Imagination has no limits except those imposed by belief. If you can imagine it and feel it as real, you are sowing the seed of its fulfillment. There is no need to force or strive. The work is inward. It requires attention, clarity, and faith, not in the world, but in your ability to create through inner vision. What you see in your imagination is far more important than what you see with your eyes, For what you see inwardly will eventually determine what you see outwardly. If you live in the vision of what is not yet seen, and dwell in that state as though it were already true, the outer will conform. The key is to imagine not just with thought, but with feeling. It is feeling that gives life to the image. A cold, mechanical visualization is weak and ineffective. But an image charged with emotion, believed in and revisited with expectancy, has the power to move mountains. You are not simply watching a movie in your mind. You are stepping into it. You are becoming it. The more real it feels, the more certain its appearance in the world. Reality is not created by willpower or struggle, but by entering into the feeling of the fulfilled desire and allowing imagination to do its silent work. Imagination also reveals the truth of identity. You become what you imagine yourself to be. If you imagine yourself as powerless, your life will echo that belief. If you imagine yourself as capable, loved, successful, whole, the world must present you with experiences that confirm that assumption. You do not need anyone's permission to change who you are inwardly. You simply need to choose a new image, dwell in it, and let the outer world catch up. You are not bound by the story you have lived thus far. You are not defined by the evidence of the senses or the opinions of others. You are always free to imagine anew. Every great change, every transformation in life begins with an act of imagination. No invention was born without it. No progress made without someone first seeing what could be, instead of only what is. And this same creative force that built civilizations lives in each individual. It is not reserved for a few. It is the heritage of all. Though most have forgotten, to awaken it is to reclaim your role as creator, to cease reacting and begin originating. The life you desire is not something to chase, but something to imagine. And what is imagined persistently and felt deeply must come to pass. Through imagination you enter into states. Each state has its own reality, its own circumstances, its own world. You are always in a state, whether chosen consciously or not. If you do not choose, the world will choose for you based on habit and history. But if you deliberately imagine the state you desire and assume its feeling, you enter it, and having entered it, you will begin to see its fruits. This is not theory, it is law. You do not need to know how it will unfold. You need only dwell in the end, in the completed desire, and let imagination fulfill its function. The world will reconfigure itself to match the inner scene. You said, long explain point 3, without headings up to 800 words, without concluding sentences. ChatGPT said, assumption is the act of taking something as true, not because of evidence in the outer world, but because it has been accepted and believed within. It is a quiet, powerful force that precedes all manifestation. Every event, every condition in life, every relationship, success or failure, is preceded by an assumption, sometimes conscious, often unconscious. To assume is to claim internally, to occupy the state of the thing desired before it appears. It is not a matter of hoping or waiting, but of knowing and accepting that what is imagined is already a fact in the unseen. The outer world does not initiate change, it reflects the changes that have already occurred in the inner realm of assumption. Once an assumption is held with persistence and emotional acceptance, it hardens into fact, taking shape in time and space as a lived experience. People are conditioned to believe that seeing is believing, that only after something appears in the physical can it be accepted as true. But this is the great reversal of spiritual law. In truth, believing is seeing. What is assumed to be true becomes the lens through which the world is interpreted. And more than that, it becomes the structure by which the world is constructed. The inner assumption does not simply color perception, it gives rise to experience. If a person assumes they are not good enough, no matter what opportunities appear, they will find ways to sabotage or overlook them. If they assume they are favored, loved, and successful, the world will mirror that inner state, even if it must rearrange circumstances and shift people to do so. Assumption requires a willingness to feel now what the senses deny. It demands that one turn away from appearances, not with denial, but with quiet authority. It is not a matter of pretending or escaping reality, but of recognizing that reality flows from consciousness. When one assumes the feeling of the wish fulfilled, they move into the state of that fulfilled desire, and that state begins to attract and organize everything necessary for its expression. Circumstances, opportunities, and people begin to align with the new inner position. The assumption acts as a magnetic center, pulling experience toward it in ways the rational mind cannot predict. To assume a new state is to accept it so fully that one thinks from it rather than of it. Most people think of their desires as something separate and far away, but to assume is to live from the end, to mentally dwell in the place where the desire is already realized. This shift is subtle but crucial. When you assume you are already the person you desire to be, your thoughts, feelings, and actions begin to match that identity. You stop waiting for change and begin living it. The external has no choice but to comply because it is compelled to mirror the dominant state of consciousness. Persistence in assumption is key. It is not enough to assume for a moment and then return to doubt or worry. The state must be occupied repeatedly until it becomes natural. This is not forceful repetition but inner conviction. The more you return to the feeling of the fulfilled desire, the more it becomes familiar, and what is familiar becomes real. It is through dwelling in the assumption that it takes root in the subconscious mind, and the subconscious, having no will of its own, must express what is impressed upon it. The outer world bends to the inner pattern with perfect fidelity. There is no need to beg or struggle. Assumption is not about forcing the world to conform, but about knowing that it already has. The moment you assume something to be true, you claim it in the invisible, and that claim begins to materialize. You do not have to figure out the details. Life arranges itself around your inner state. Unexpected means, unknown channels, strange coincidences, all are used by the law to fulfill what has been assumed. It is not your job to control the how. It is your job to remain in the feeling of the end. The power of assumption is not limited to the self. You can assume for others, and if your assumption is sustained and felt with love, it will affect them, for we are all connected in consciousness. When you assume someone is healed, successful, or at peace, and you hold to that vision without contradiction, you are contributing to the change of their state. You are seeing them not as they are, but as they could be, and in that seeing you help bring it into being. This is the true meaning of prayer, not begging for change, but assuming the change is already done. There is a sacredness to assumption, for it is an act of faith, not in some distant power, but in the creative law that lives within. It is a declaration that imagination creates reality, and that by dwelling in a new state of being, one can bring forth what was once only an inner vision. The world does not grant desires through effort or merit. It yields to assumption. To those who dare to believe before seeing, to those who live in the conviction of the invisible, the visible must eventually comply. This is not superstition or fantasy. It is the quiet mechanism by which all things are made. To assume is to begin creation. To sustain the assumption is to allow that creation to unfold. You said, long explain point 4 without headings up to 800 words, without concluding sentences. ChatGPT said, expectation operates as a silent but commanding force in the shaping of reality. It is not loud or dramatic, yet it carries within it the full weight of creative authority. What you expect, whether consciously or unconsciously, sends out a signal into the field of life, a blueprint around which experience gathers and organizes. Expectation is not simply hope. It is belief in motion. It is the quiet conviction that something will happen, that a certain outcome is on its way, and this inner stance held with consistency begins to bend the outer world to match it. While belief forms the foundation, expectation builds upon it, adding energy, momentum, and direction. There is a subtle but crucial distinction between desire and expectation. Many desire change, but few expect it. Desire often remains in the realm of longing, accompanied by doubt, worry, or feelings of unworthiness. Expectation, on the other hand, is desire matured into certainty. It no longer pleads, it knows. It assumes the outcome not as a possibility, but as a natural inevitability. This internal state influences perception, thought, behavior, and ultimately the unfolding of circumstances. When one truly expects something, every action taken, every choice made, becomes an unconscious alignment with that expected result. Expectation works through the subconscious mind. The subconscious does not question or reason. It accepts the dominant emotional impressions given to it, and acts upon them. If one habitually expects failure, rejection, or disappointment, those expectations take root and begin to manifest through repeated patterns and experiences. Not because life is against the individual, but because life is always echoing the signals sent out by the inner state. On the contrary, when someone expects success, fulfillment, and ease, not in arrogance but in quiet certainty, the subconscious begins to move circumstances, people, and events in harmony with that expectation. What is impressed inwardly must express outwardly. This is why people so often find that their fears seem to come true. Fear is not just an emotion, it is often a form of negative expectation. When one anticipates disaster, betrayal, loss, or limitation with strong emotion, they are unknowingly planting the seeds for those outcomes. The mind cannot distinguish between a vividly imagined fear and a real event. It treats both as commands. The more energy and focus given to a particular outcome, the more the subconscious organizes the body, behavior, and perception to align with it. It draws attention to confirming evidence and filters out anything that would contradict the expected result. The nature of expectation also determines how one responds to delays or apparent obstacles. A person who truly expects their desire to manifest does not waver when things do not appear immediately. Their expectation is rooted not in external evidence but in inner knowing. They are not disturbed by appearances because they understand that appearances are temporary reflections of past assumptions and expectations. They persist, not because they are desperate, but because they have already accepted the outcome within themselves. They live as though it were done. Their trust in the unseen is stronger than their reaction to the seen. Expectation is a posture, a stance of consciousness that can be cultivated. It begins with the decision to align inner dialogue, emotion, and imagination with the end result. Every time one entertains thoughts of doubt, they are weakening the structure of their expectation. But each time they return to the feeling of fulfillment, each time they affirm that what they seek is already on its way or already theirs, they are reinforcing it. Expectation is not about forcing belief, but about gently and consistently redirecting attention until certainty becomes natural. The mind begins to rewire itself to support this new stance, and over time it becomes effortless. When you expect something deeply enough, your entire being begins to operate as if it were already true. Your tone of voice changes, your posture shifts, your actions are no longer hesitant or uncertain. You speak and move with the calm authority of someone who knows what is coming. Others may sense this in you and respond accordingly. Life too senses this inner shift and delivers what matches. Expectation creates a gravitational field. It draws in its likeness and repels contradiction. It does not need to scream or struggle. It simply is. And because it is, the world responds. Children often demonstrate this principle naturally. When they expect a gift, a visit, or a joyful event, they act with such innocence and certainty that the whole household often moves to fulfill that expectation. Their belief is undiluted by fear or analysis. They simply assume the good is coming and prepare their hearts and minds to receive it. This is the same spirit that one must carry into the creative process. To expect with the innocence of a child and the confidence of one who knows the laws of consciousness is to place oneself in the stream of manifestation, where outcomes unfold with grace. This principle of expectation applies to all areas of life: relationships, health, finances, career, self-image. If you expect love, you will radiate the qualities that draw it. If you expect healing, your body responds more rapidly to that command. If you expect increase and opportunity, your attention sharpens to recognize and act on doors opening. Nothing happens in isolation. Expectation reshapes the inner environment, and the outer world follows. This does not mean that challenges will never appear, but it means that even challenges are interpreted differently through the lens of faith. They are seen as temporary conditions, not permanent realities. The one who expects good is already aligned with the outcome, and that alignment creates the pathway. You said, long explain point 5 without headings up to 800 words, without concluding sentences. ChatGPT said, inner conversation is the continuous, often unnoticed stream of dialogue that flows through the mind throughout every moment of the day. It is not limited to words spoken aloud, but includes the silent thoughts, assumptions, judgments, and commentaries that one holds about themselves, others, and the world. These internal dialogues are not mere mental noise or passive background chatter. They are formative, generative, and profoundly creative. Each inner word sown with belief and emotion is a seed, and every seed planted in the fertile ground of the subconscious mind must eventually bear fruit in the external experience. The tone and content of these inner conversations shape perception, decision-making, relationships, opportunities, and the unfolding of one's reality. Most people are unaware of the power carried within their habitual inner talk. They speak to themselves in ways they would never speak to others, repeating phrases of limitation, doubt, fear, and unworthiness, often without challenge. These inner words, repeated often enough, become embedded assumptions that dictate the range of what one believes is possible. If someone repeatedly tells themselves, I'm not good enough, or nothing ever works out for me, they are etching those beliefs into their subconscious, and from that internal script, life must respond with confirming evidence. The world simply mirrors the identity held in these inner conversations. The act of observing and redirecting inner speech is one of the most powerful spiritual disciplines. It requires awareness, honesty, and intention. The moment one becomes conscious of their internal dialogue is the moment they reclaim the authorship of their experience. Inner conversation can be seen as the steering wheel of the mind. It guides attention, emotion, and ultimately action. A thought may come uninvited, but entertaining it, giving it voice and repetition within, is a choice. That choice becomes habit, and that habit becomes destiny. To change one's life, one must begin by changing the inner narrative. Each time a new idea or desire is introduced, it must pass through the filter of inner conversation. If that conversation is filled with arguments against the desire, with reminders of past failures, or with beliefs in limitation, the desire is resisted and delayed. But if the inner speech aligns with the new state, affirming it, supporting it, feeling it, then the desire begins to solidify. Inner conversations are not private musings hidden in the mind. They are living forces that sculpt one's reality moment by moment. They are the blueprint from which the subconscious builds the world of form. The most effective inner speech carries the emotional tone of already having. When one speaks to themselves as though the desire has already been fulfilled, and does so consistently, they begin to enter into that state of being. The subconscious accepts repetition combined with feeling as instruction. To inwardly say, "Everything is working in my favor," and to feel the calm certainty of that statement, plants a creative command into the depths of consciousness. The outer world will begin to move in ways, subtle and grand, to fulfill that assumption. People, events, opportunities, and even unexpected interventions are drawn to match the frequency of the sustained inner word. Inner conversations also affect how one relates to others. If someone habitually replays imagined arguments, anticipates rejection, or carries mental grievances, they are shaping the relational dynamics before a word is spoken. The subconscious responds to the dominant feeling carried about another, not just the surface words. When you mentally criticize someone or rehearse conflict, you are conditioning your mind to expect disharmony. But when you hold another in the light of peace, understanding, and goodwill, even if only inwardly, you begin to shift your relationship to them. Whether or not they consciously know it, your state influences their behavior toward you. This inner dialogue continues even in sleep, and it shapes the subconscious impressions carried into the dream state. What is repeated internally as one drifts to sleep becomes deeply impressed, for the conscious mind is quieted and the subconscious more receptive. Using this sacred window to speak the fulfilled desire, to dwell on loving, empowering inner speech, is one of the most effective ways to initiate change. Instead of replaying the problems of the day or worrying about tomorrow, one can choose to enter sleep with words that affirm health, success, love, or peace. Those inner words do not fade with unconsciousness, they continue their work beneath awareness. Language, even when unspoken, carries vibration. The quality of one's inner speech determines the quality of one's emotional state. A mind filled with kind, encouraging, and purposeful inner dialogue creates a foundation of inner peace and confidence that no external condition can shake. But a mind filled with harsh self-talk, anxiety, and self-doubt produces a state of constant inner friction and fear. The outer world is never the cause, it is the mirror. And the inner conversation is the source of the reflection. Changing the script is not a matter of pretending, but of consciously choosing which thoughts are allowed to grow. One need not be perfect in this practice, only persistent. It is not about suppressing all negative thought, but about recognizing it quickly and replacing it with a more empowering word. Each time this is done, the mind becomes more attuned to the new pattern. The old conversations lose their grip and new conversations take root. Over time, this inner transformation gives rise to outer transformation, not because of effort or willpower, but because the world must reflect the inner content that is most consistently held. Whether spoken aloud or in the silent chambers of the mind, every word is a cause, and every experience is its effect. You said, long explain point 6. Without headings up to 800 words, without concluding sentences. ChatGPT said, imagination is the foundation of all creation, the original cause of everything that appears in the world of form. Before anything can exist in the physical realm, it must first be conceived in the inner world of thought and image. Imagination is not a mere escape or daydreaming, but a divine faculty, a bridge between the invisible and the visible. It is the means by which one enters into the state of the wish fulfilled and gives shape to desires not yet realized. Through imagination, one is able to move beyond the boundaries of the senses and plant new realities in the field of consciousness, from which all outer circumstances eventually emerge. Every invention, every work of art, every healed body, every transformed life begins with an image, a mental picture held with feeling and belief until it becomes fact. The imagination is not limited to visual images alone. It includes the felt sense of an experience, the inner hearing of voices and sounds, the knowing that something is real even when it cannot yet be touched. It involves the total engagement of the mind in the state desired. When you imagine something vividly and dwell in that state as though it were already true, you begin to impress that reality on the subconscious mind. The subconscious does not distinguish between what is real and what is imagined with belief and emotion. It accepts the image as a blueprint and begins to move circumstances to express it. What is impressed inwardly must be expressed outwardly, and imagination is the tool by which the impression is made. Imagination is creative action. It is not idle fantasy, but deliberate construction. When you take the time to enter into the feeling of already having what you desire, whether it is peace, abundance, love, or healing, you are using imagination to clothe the invisible with substance. You are not simply watching a scene in your mind as though it was separate from you. You are entering into it, participating in it, becoming one with it. You are not an observer, but a doer. The more vividly you engage the senses of imagination, feeling the textures, hearing the sounds, seeing the colors, the more real the scene becomes to the subconscious, and the faster the outer world begins to conform. Most people use their imagination destructively without realizing it. They imagine the worst-case scenarios, rehearse arguments that never happened, replay failures, and mentally anticipate rejection or disappointment. These imaginal acts are not harmless. They are creative forces shaping the future. Every time the mind dwells in fear or doubt, it is planting seeds of those conditions. The outer world, as a perfect mirror, will eventually reflect back the emotional tone and imagery held most persistently. But when imagination is used constructively, when it is directed deliberately to picture only what is lovely, noble, and life-affirming, it becomes a sacred instrument of transformation. The body responds to it. Relationships shift because of it, and new paths open where none seemed possible. Imagination is most powerful when used with repetition and emotional conviction. One imaginal act done with deep feeling and absolute acceptance can produce great change. But when an imaginal scene is revisited again and again with the same spirit of conviction, it creates an inner momentum that becomes unstoppable. The subconscious mind is influenced not only by what is imagined, but by how often and how deeply it is imagined. Each repetition is like striking the same key on a piano. Over time, the sound becomes more familiar, more resonant, more dominant. Eventually, the tone of the new state becomes natural, and when it is natural inwardly, it must become normal outwardly. Imagination is also the faculty by which one moves beyond time. In the imaginal act, you are not bound by the present conditions. You are not limited by the evidence of the senses. You are free to place yourself in the end state, the fulfilled desire, and to live from that end. In imagination, you can be where you want to be, do what you want to do, and receive what you want to receive. You are not waiting for change, you are embodying it. This shift from imagining about something to imagining from it is the difference between wishful thinking and true creation. When you imagine from the place of already being the person you wish to be, your inner state changes and the outer world must follow. This power of imagination is available at all times. It requires no special tools, no rituals, no permissions. It is always with you, waiting to be directed. In quiet moments of stillness before sleep, during meditation, or even in the midst of daily life, you can return again and again to the imaginal scene that represents the fulfillment of your desire. You can revise past experiences in imagination, and thereby change their emotional charge and future consequences. You can pre-live tomorrow in imagination and set the tone for what will unfold. The law of consciousness operates through what is impressed upon it, and imagination is the sacred means of impression. When imagination is trusted, it becomes the most intimate companion and the most powerful tool. It allows one to transcend appearances, to rise above limitation, and to participate in the ongoing act of creation. To live imaginatively is to live in faith, to walk by the unseen rather than by what the senses report. It is to know that the world outside is always catching up with the world within, and that every vision lovingly and persistently held in imagination is a seed destined to bloom in its own time. You said, long explain point 7, without headings, up to 800 words, without concluding sentences. ChatGPT said, persistence is the quiet, unwavering force that ensures the fulfillment of one's inner vision, regardless of appearances or delays. It is not dramatic or forceful, but it is steady, loyal, and unshaken. While imagination, belief, expectation, and inner speech form the structure of creative power, it is persistence that maintains that structure long enough for it to express into form. Without persistence, even the most beautiful vision may fade into nothingness. It is through persistence that one continues to occupy the state of the wish fulfilled despite circumstances that seem to contradict it. The world outside may not yet reflect the imagined desire, but the persistent individual continues to feel from the end, to live inwardly as if it were already so, knowing that sustained inner conviction always precedes outer change. The nature of reality is such that change often unfolds gradually, through processes that involve movement, timing, and the reshaping of events, people, and environments. When someone plants a seed in the soil, they do not dig it up each day to see if it has grown. They trust that beneath the surface invisible processes are at work, responding to light, moisture, and time. Persistence is this same trust applied to the unseen workings of consciousness. It is the refusal to abandon the inner state simply because the outer senses have not yet confirmed it. The persistent mind does not seek constant reassurance from the outer world, because it understands that the outer is a lagging reflection of the inner, and that persistence bridges the gap between the imagined and the material. Persistence does not involve strain or struggle. It is not about trying harder or doing more in the physical world. It is about inner loyalty, a daily return to the assumption that what is desired is already true. It is the practice of returning to the imaginal scene, re-entering the feeling of fulfillment, even when doubts whisper and evidence argues otherwise. The persistent individual knows that doubt is a test of devotion, not a sign of failure. They do not fight doubt, but gently ignore it, choosing again and again to dwell in the desired state. This repetition of inner acceptance carves new grooves in the mind, turning belief into assumption, and assumption into embodiment. Those who succeed in any field of life, whether in healing, relationships, success, or transformation, do so not necessarily because they have stronger imagination or deeper knowledge, but because they persist. They continue to see themselves as healthy even when symptoms remain. They continue to imagine abundance even when the account is low. They continue to dwell in love even when the relationship is not yet visible. This refusal to surrender the inner vision to the outer evidence is what turns dreams into fact. The outer world is malleable and always in motion, and persistence is what holds the mold in place until the new shape emerges. Persistence must also extend into the subtleties of inner speech and feeling. It is not enough to affirm a vision in the morning and then spend the rest of the day rehearsing worry and fear. True persistence is an hourly commitment to remain faithful to the end result, even if only in gentle reminders and small returns. It is not rigid or harsh, but loving and attentive. Each time the mind begins to drift toward doubt, the persistent individual brings it back, not with punishment, but with tenderness, as one would guide a child back to a path. The mind, through this practice, becomes obedient to the vision, and the vision begins to feel more natural than the current condition. Persistence transforms the invisible into the inevitable. When a new state is persistently assumed, it begins to feel normal, and what feels normal inwardly begins to appear outwardly as circumstance. This is the secret of all true transformation, that the outer changes not because one demands it, but because one becomes someone for whom the new condition is natural. Persistence re-educates the subconscious mind through saturation. The old beliefs and patterns are not fought but dissolved through lack of attention, while the new state is built up through constant, faithful recognition. Over time, the energy of persistence wears down resistance and opens the path for manifestation to flow. Even the act of imagining itself requires persistence. The mind may wander, the attention may flicker, distractions may arise, but the persistent individual returns. Over and over, they revisit the scene, the feeling, the assumption, until it becomes alive and animated within. They no longer wait for the world to give them permission to feel it. They feel it now, in imagination, and allow the world to rearrange itself accordingly. This inner insistence, calmly held and gently repeated, creates the momentum that carries desire into form. It is not about force, but about consistency. Each return to the vision reinforces it, strengthens it, anchors it more deeply in the subconscious, where all change begins. Persistence does not demand perfection. It allows space for temporary discouragement, for emotional fluctuations, for moments of forgetting. But it always returns. It remembers its aim and reclaims its posture. The persistent person is not the one who never doubts, but the one who chooses not to stay in doubt. They are not immune to setbacks, but unwilling to be defined by them. They know that the truth of imagination is more real than appearances, and they commit to that truth even when appearances challenge it. They may revise, reimagine, reinforce, but they never abandon the state they have chosen. That is the power of persistence. It holds the inner ground long enough for the outer to catch up. Persistence is the quiet agreement with unseen laws, the daily choice to remain faithful to the invisible over the visible. It is the embodiment of trust in the unseen workings of consciousness, the loyal return to the assumption that what is felt and imagined is already true in its essence. This unwavering stance creates the container through which reality must pass, and through that container the desired experience flows, not as a reward but as a reflection of the state most consistently assumed. You said, right conclusion of this speech. ChatGPT said, so let us remember, reality bends not to the noise of effort, but to the quiet certainty of belief. It is not action but assumption that moves the unseen forces. When we choose to dwell in the feeling of the wish fulfilled, when we shape our inner conversations with love, when we persist in imagination despite appearances, we align ourselves with the deeper current from which all life flows. The world is not separate from us, it is our mirror, our servant, our response. And so we do not need to strive, we need only to assume and to remain faithful to that assumption. In that inner faithfulness, the invisible becomes visible, the imagined becomes real, and the unseen forces respond with perfect precision. Your life is not a series of random events. Every moment, every struggle, every delay, these are not obstacles. They are divine orchestrations leading you toward your greatest breakthrough. You have prayed, you have believed, and yet it may seem as if the door remains closed. But I tell you, the door is not locked. It is simply waiting for the perfect moment to open. The vision you hold in your heart, the promise whispered to you in the quiet of your soul, is not an illusion. It is real. It is already yours. Do not be deceived by the appearance of delay. The world of the senses will tell you that nothing is changing, that your prayers are unanswered, that your faith is in vain. But appearances are shadows, mere reflections of the past. You are not waiting for your breakthrough is waiting for you. It exists now in this moment, and your only task is to align yourself with it. Walk in the certainty that what you have asked for is already done. Feel it, live in it. The moment you accept it as true, it must come to pass. Many have given up just before their blessing arrived. They looked at their circumstances and allowed doubt to creep in. But you must not be shaken. The one who trusts does not waver. The one who believes does not question. Do you not see? God's timing is never early, never late. It is precise. It is perfect. Every trial, every moment of waiting has been shaping you, preparing you for the very thing you desire. What you seek is seeking you, but you cannot grasp it with a mind filled with fear, impatience, or disbelief. You must rest in the assurance that it is done. You must see yourself already in possession of your answered prayer. Do not wait for the evidence. Become the evidence. Hold the feeling of completion so firmly that the world has no choice but to rearrange itself to match the truth you carry within. When the seed is planted, do you dig it up each day to see if it is growing? No, you trust the process. You know that beneath the soil, unseen and unnoticed, life is forming. So it is with your desires. The work is being done in the unseen. God is moving in ways you cannot yet comprehend. And just as the seed breaks through the ground at its appointed time, so too will your breakthrough appear. Hold steadfast to your vision. Do not measure time as the world does, for in the divine realm all is now. What you call waiting, God calls unfolding. What you call delay, God calls preparation. Keep your faith unwavering, your thoughts aligned, your heart expectant. Your breakthrough is not distant, it is here, it is done. Trust. Your breakthrough is closer than you think, closer than the air you breathe, closer than the heartbeat within your chest. It is not in some distant future, not in some far-off place. It is here now, waiting for you to claim it. But you must first believe that it is so. You must first remove the veil of doubt that blinds you to the truth that God's timing is perfect, the truth that what you have asked for has already been given, the truth that you are not forgotten, not forsaken, not overlooked. The world around you may whisper lies. It may try to convince you that nothing is changing, that your prayers have fallen on deaf ears. But the truth is not found in appearances. The truth is not determined by what you see with your physical eyes. The truth is revealed to those who look beyond, to those who dare to believe in the unseen, to those who trust in the power of the divine promise. When you plant a seed, you do not see the roots taking hold beneath the soil, but you trust that they are growing. You do not question whether the sun will rise each morning, yet you have never commanded it to do so. The same unseen hand that governs the rising of the sun, the same power that causes the trees to blossom in their season, is the same power orchestrating your breakthrough. And just as no force on earth can prevent the arrival of spring, nothing can stop the fulfillment of what has been promised to you. You have already received what you have asked for, but you must awaken to that reality. You must assume the feeling of already possessing it. The moment you embody the state of your answered prayer, the moment you live from the place of fulfillment rather than longing, that is the moment your world must shift to reflect it. You do not wait for change, you become change. You do not seek signs, you become the sign. So, this is the divine mystery that few understand, yet it is the key that unlocks every door. You are not a beggar in the kingdom of God. You do not have to plead, you do not have to convince, you do not have to strive. The Father knows what you need before you even ask. But He is waiting for you to rise in faith. He is waiting for you to step into the reality of what is already yours. Not tomorrow, not next year, now. Many stand at the threshold of their breakthrough and turn away because they do not see it with their eyes. They believe only what the world reflects back to them, and in doing so they delay their own blessing. But you are called to a higher understanding. You are called to walk by faith, not by sight. If you believe only what your eyes can see, then you are a prisoner to the past. But if you believe in what is unseen, if you hold steadfast to the promise, then you will step into the miraculous. The moment you pray, it is done. The moment you believe, it is yours. But faith does not waver. Faith does not question. Faith does not demand to see before it believes. Faith knows. Faith rests. Faith rejoices before the evidence appears, because it understands that the evidence is inevitable. It is law. It is divine order. The greatest test of faith is not in the asking, but in the waiting. Will you remain steadfast when nothing appears to be changing? Will you hold to your vision even when circumstances seem to contradict it? This is where most give up. This is where many surrender to doubt, allowing fear to take root in the garden of their minds. But if you only knew how close you are, if you only knew that just beyond what seems like delay is the very thing you have been waiting for. You do not need to force it, you do not need to chase it, you do not need to struggle, you only need to receive. Can you receive without resistance? Can you let go of the need to control the how and the when? Can you trust that the same God who breathed life into you is the same God who knows the perfect time to bring forth what you desire? Every delay is divine. Every seeming setback is a setup. What you perceive as a detour is often the direct path to what is meant for you. Nothing is being withheld from you. Nothing is being kept from you. You are simply being prepared, being refined, being positioned. If you were given your blessing too soon, you would not yet be ready to sustain it. If the door opened too early, you might not yet be equipped to walk through it. But God sees beyond what you can see. He knows the appointed time, and He does not make mistakes. Release the need to struggle, release the need to question. Simply align yourself with the knowing that it is already done. If you could see what awaits you, you would not waste a single moment in worry. If you could see how every piece is falling into place, you would not doubt for even a second. But you must walk in that knowing before the evidence arrives. This is the test. This is the refinement of faith. Your thoughts are seeds. Every thought you dwell upon, every feeling you entertain is a prayer sent into the unseen realm. You do not have to say it out loud. You do not have to repeat it 100 times. The universe is listening to what you feel, to what you embody. If you dwell in lack, lack will manifest. If you dwell in uncertainty, uncertainty will multiply. But if you dwell in the fulfillment of what you desire, if you abide in the peace that comes with knowing it is already yours, then nothing can stop its arrival. This is not about wishful thinking. This is about understanding the divine law. What you assume to be true must become true. This is why you must guard your mind. This is why you must be vigilant over your thoughts. Every moment you entertain doubt, you delay your breakthrough. Every time you question, you push it further away. But every moment you live in faith, every time you affirm that it is already done, you accelerate its arrival. You are not waiting for your breakthrough. Your breakthrough is waiting for you. It is waiting for you to step into the version of yourself that already has it. It is waiting for you to embody the joy, the peace, the confidence of someone who knows that what they seek is already theirs. The moment you do this, the moment you become it, the moment you fully trust without reservation, the world must conform to your inner reality. This is the truth that has been spoken through the ages. This is the mystery that has been revealed to those who dare to believe. God does not withhold blessings. He does not delay without purpose. He does not forget his promises. What he has spoken over your life will come to pass, not because you strive for it, not because you force it, but because it is already written. The only thing that determines how soon you see it is your ability to believe it is already done. So stand firm. Do not be shaken. Do not be moved by appearances. What is unseen is more real than what is seen. What is already yours cannot be taken from you. You are on the verge of something greater than you can imagine. Stay in faith. Trust the timing. Walk in the knowing that your breakthrough is not coming, it is here. Your breakthrough is not a distant possibility. It is not something you must chase, nor is it something that requires struggle. It is already within reach, already within you, waiting for your recognition, waiting for your acceptance. But to receive it, you must surrender to the divine flow of life, trusting that everything is unfolding exactly as it should. When you cease to resist, when you let go of worry and step fully into faith, you open the doors for what has always been yours. Most people live in a state of waiting. They wait for signs, for circumstances to change, for external validation that their desires are on the way. But waiting in this manner is a declaration that you do not yet have what you seek. It is an affirmation of lack, a silent prayer of doubt, and as long as you affirm the absence of your breakthrough, it will remain absent. The moment you shift from waiting to knowing, from hoping to embodying, the unseen forces move in your favor. Do not make the mistake of thinking your breakthrough is somewhere outside of you. It is not dependent on another person. It is not waiting for the perfect conditions. It is not something that can be given or taken away by anything external. It is a state of being, a shift in consciousness. And when that shift happens within, the world must adjust to reflect it. If you were told that everything you have prayed for was already guaranteed, how would you feel? How would you act? Would you still worry? Would you still question? Or would you walk in peace, knowing that it is already settled? That is the posture of true faith. That is the confidence of one who understands divine timing. That is the attitude that accelerates manifestation. There is no power in desperation. There is no creativity in fear. When you operate from a place of lack, you cut yourself off from the very blessing you are seeking. But when you shift into gratitude, when you give thanks for what is already yours even before you see it, you align yourself with the frequency of answered prayer. Gratitude is the language of manifestation. It is the song of faith, the bridge between desire and fulfillment. You must begin to see yourself as already possessing what you have asked for. You must feel it as if it were real, because in truth it is real the moment you believe it is done. The moment you accept it without doubt, it becomes yours. This is the key. Not striving, not pleading, but assuming the reality of what you seek. There are those who say they believe, but their actions reveal otherwise. They pray, yet they worry. They declare faith, yet they speak words of doubt. They ask for abundance, yet they focus on lack. They say they trust God's timing, yet they grow impatient. But true belief is unwavering. True trust does not need constant reassurance. It rests in the certainty that what is meant to be will come in the perfect moment. And that moment is never delayed, it is never late. It arrives exactly when it is needed, at the appointed time, in the appointed way. Even the delays you perceive are not delays at all, but preparations. What seems like a closed door is often a redirection. What feels like waiting is often divine alignment. And what appears to be a setback is in reality a setup for something far greater than you imagined. You must begin to walk as if it is already done, speak as if it is already done, think as if it is already done, because when you do, the world must reflect your inner state. It is law, it is divine order. You are the creator of your experience, not through force, but through belief. Not through effort, but through alignment. Not through striving, but through resting in the certainty that what you desire is already yours. There is power in stillness, power in silence. When you quiet the mind, when you let go of the need to figure everything out, you make room for divine wisdom to move through you. The greatest breakthroughs do not come through struggle, but through surrender. Not through force, but through faith. Faith does not ask how will it happen. Faith does not demand to see every step before taking the first one. Faith trusts. Faith moves forward even when the path is unclear. Faith stands firm even when circumstances seem to contradict the promise. Because faith knows that what is unseen is more real than what is seen. You are not here to struggle. You are not here to live in fear. You are not here to question whether or not your breakthrough will come. You are here to rise in faith. You are here to declare with confidence that your time is now, not tomorrow, not someday, now. Look around you. Everything you see was once unseen. Everything that exists was once imagined. And in the same way, your breakthrough already exists in the unseen realm. It is not a matter of if, but when. And when is determined by your ability to believe. There is nothing standing between you and what you desire except your own perception. The moment you remove the mental barriers, the moment you stop looking at the world through the lens of limitation, the moment you fully embrace the truth that it is already done, everything changes. Do not be discouraged by what you see. Do not be moved by what seems to be happening. The physical world is only a reflection of past thoughts and beliefs. But the moment you shift internally, the external must follow. It is law. It is the way of creation. You are not waiting for God. God is waiting for you. Waiting for you to step into the version of yourself that already possesses the very thing you seek. Waiting for you to embody the joy, the peace, the confidence of someone who knows that they have already received. So walk boldly, speak with authority, move in certainty. Your breakthrough is not coming, it is here. Trust in the timing, trust in the process, and above all, trust that it is already done. There is no power in hesitation. There is no strength in doubt. Every time you waver between belief and fear, between certainty and worry, you delay what is already meant for you. The moment you stand firm in the knowing that your breakthrough is inevitable, the forces of the unseen move in perfect harmony to bring it into your experience. You must not allow the evidence of the world to dictate what you believe. What you see with your physical eyes is not the final reality. It is merely the shadow of past thoughts, past beliefs, past emotions. If you continue to react to what is visible, you only perpetuate the cycle. But if you respond instead to the unseen reality, if you anchor yourself in the invisible truth that your breakthrough is already here, then the world must shift to reflect that knowing. Many ask, when will my time come? How much longer must I wait? But to ask these questions is to affirm that you do not yet have what you desire. To ask is to acknowledge lack, and to acknowledge lack is to strengthen it. Instead of asking, begin declaring. Instead of waiting, begin living as though it is done. Instead of wondering when it will arrive, step into the consciousness that it already has. There is no distance between you and your breakthrough. There is no separation between you and what you seek. The only thing standing in the way is the belief that it is separate from you. But what if you removed that belief? What if you truly accepted that it was already yours? What if you stopped striving, stopped seeking, and simply received? You have been conditioned to think that blessings must be earned, that manifestations require effort, that you must struggle to achieve what is meant for you, but this is an illusion. Your only task is to align. Your only work is to believe. The moment you release the idea of effort, the moment you stop grasping and start trusting, everything flows with ease. What would you do if you knew without a doubt that your breakthrough had already been secured? How would you act if you fully trusted that the divine has already arranged everything in perfect order? Would you still worry? Would you still stress over timelines? Or would you walk in peace, knowing that what is yours can never be taken from you? It is not a question of deserving. It is not a question of worthiness. You are already worthy. You were born worthy. There is nothing you must prove, nothing you must do to earn the favor that has already been bestowed upon you. The only thing required is that you step into agreement with this truth, that you stop resisting, stop questioning, and simply accept what has been prepared for you. Doubt is a thief. It robs you of the joy that is already yours. It blinds you to the blessings that are already present. Every time you allow doubt to take root, you build a wall between yourself and your breakthrough. But faith tears down every wall. Faith dismantles every barrier. Faith opens the floodgates of abundance, love, healing, and transformation. Your mind is the key. Your consciousness is the bridge. If you want to see change in your life, you must first create it within. You must become the person who already has what you seek. You must think, feel, and act as though your desire is not in the future but in the now. Because in truth there is no future, there is only now. And what you accept in the now determines what you will experience. There is no such thing as delay. There is no such thing as divine reluctance. What appears to be delay is often divine preparation. What seems like waiting is often alignment. You are not being denied, you are being positioned. You are not forgotten, you are being prepared. The very thing you seek is seeking you, but it cannot reach you until you are truly ready to receive it. You cannot hold on to fear and faith at the same time. You cannot cling to worry and trust simultaneously. You must choose. You must decide once and for all that you will no longer entertain doubt, that you will no longer question whether or not your time will come, that you will no longer allow external circumstances to dictate your inner state, because the moment you make that decision, everything shifts. You may not see it immediately, but trust that it is happening. Trust that the very moment you align your thoughts, your emotions, and your actions with the reality of your breakthrough, the wheels begin turning in the unseen. Trust that divine timing is never wrong, never late, never failing. There are no coincidences. There is no randomness in divine order. Every moment, every experience, every challenge is leading you exactly where you are meant to be. Even the things that seemed like failures were never failures at all. They were redirections. Even the doors that closed were not losses, they were protections. Even the times when you felt abandoned, you were being held closer than ever. Your faith is being strengthened, your spirit is being refined, and when the moment is right, when your heart is truly prepared, the manifestation will come with such clarity, such perfection, that you will wonder why you ever doubted. You will look back and see that it was always coming, always unfolding, always meant for you. So release the struggle, release the doubt, release the need to control, the timing and the method. Trust that the divine knows exactly what is required, exactly when it is required. Trust that nothing is missing, nothing is lacking, nothing is out of place. Your only task is to remain steadfast. Your only responsibility is to hold the vision, to embody the belief, to align with the truth that what is meant for you is already yours. And as you do, you will witness the miraculous. You will experience the manifestation of what you have long known in your heart to be true. You will see that your breakthrough was never far away. It was always closer than you thought. There is nothing standing between you and the life you desire except the illusion of separation. You have been taught to believe in time, to measure progress by days and years, to count the moments as if they are barriers between you and your breakthrough. But what if time is not what you think it is? What if the future you long for already exists in this very moment? What if the only thing keeping you from stepping into it is your own belief that it is still ahead of you, still distant, still unreachable? The truth is, you are not waiting for your breakthrough. Your breakthrough is waiting for you. It is waiting for you to align with it, to claim it as already done, to stop looking outside of yourself and realize that it has been within you all along. Every thought you think, every feeling you hold, every assumption you carry shapes the reality you experience. When you assume that your blessing is far away, it remains far away. When you assume that divine timing is still preparing it, you unknowingly delay it. But the moment you shift, the moment you accept that it is already here, the moment you embody the knowing that it is done, the doors swing open effortlessly. The world around you is simply a reflection of what you hold within. If you believe that you are lacking, you will see lack. If you believe that you must struggle, struggle will appear before you. But if you believe that you are already blessed, already victorious, already living in the fulfillment of your desires, then the world will mirror that truth back to you. This is not wishful thinking. This is divine law. What you impress upon your inner world must be expressed in the outer world. Most people live their lives reacting to circumstances, allowing what they see to determine what they believe. But this is the opposite of how creation works. You were never meant to be a passive observer of life. You were meant to be the architect of your reality. You were given the power to speak things into existence, to call forth what is unseen, to bring forth the manifestations that have already been established in the divine realm. But to do so, you must first accept that you are worthy of it. You must first know that you are chosen, that you are powerful, that you are divinely supported in all that you do. The reason so many delay their own breakthroughs is not because God is withholding anything from them. It is because they are withholding their own belief. They entertain doubt. They speak words of limitation. They see obstacles instead of opportunities. But the moment they shift, the moment they truly accept that all things are working together for their good, that the plan is unfolding perfectly, that they are already living in answered prayers, everything changes. Your mind is your key. Your imagination is your access point. Every time you close your eyes and see yourself in possession of your desire, you are moving closer to it. Every time you feel the joy, the gratitude, the fulfillment of already having what you seek, you are dissolving the barriers that once stood in your way. But you must hold to this feeling. You must remain in this state of certainty. You must refuse to waver, no matter what the external world tries to tell you. There will be moments when circumstances seem unchanged, when nothing in your physical reality appears to be shifting, but do not be deceived. The moment you plant a seed, it begins to grow beneath the surface, long before you see the first sprout. The moment you align with your breakthrough, divine forces move in ways unseen, orchestrating the perfect series of events, rearranging situations, guiding people and opportunities toward you. Just because you cannot see it yet does not mean it is not happening. The test of faith is in the waiting. The evidence of belief is in your ability to stand firm even when there is no visible proof. Those who truly understand divine timing do not concern themselves with when and how. They simply rest in the knowing that it is already finished. They do not chase, they do not beg, they do not operate from desperation. They move with confidence, with peace, with a quiet assurance that what is meant for them cannot miss them. Fear will whisper lies. It will tell you that time is running out, that you are too late, that you have missed your opportunity. But how can you miss what was divinely appointed for you? How can you be late to a destiny that was written for you before time even began? Do not let the voice of fear dictate your reality. Let the voice of faith be the only voice you listen to. You must walk as though you already have it. You must speak as though it is already yours. You must think, feel, and act in alignment with the reality you desire. This is how mountains are moved. This is how miracles unfold. This is how the unseen becomes seen. There is no force greater than the power of belief. No obstacle can stand against unwavering faith. No delay can outlast divine certainty. If you refuse to let go of your vision, if you hold on to it with unshakable trust, if you persist no matter what, then it must come to pass. It is law, it is truth, it is already done. Now is the time to rise. Now is the time to release every doubt, every fear, every limiting thought that has kept you bound. Now is the time to step into the reality of your breakthrough, not as something distant, not as something uncertain, but as something that is already yours. The moment you decide, truly decide that it is done, the moment you choose to see it, feel it, believe it with every part of your being, that is the moment everything shifts. The moment heaven and earth align to bring forth the manifestation that was always meant for you. That is the moment you will realize that your breakthrough was never far away, it was always right here, waiting for you to claim it. So, craving for you to claim it. You must no longer see yourself as someone waiting for a breakthrough. The moment you do, you create a separation between you and what is already yours. You must see yourself as the one who already possesses it. Not tomorrow, not in the distant future, but now. Right now, in this very moment, you must embody the feeling of already having received it. Because God does not operate in time the way man does. In the divine realm, everything is already finished. Every promise, every blessing, every breakthrough has already been established. It is not about asking God to do it. It is about aligning yourself with what has already been done. You have been conditioned to believe that life unfolds in a linear fashion, that your desires must take time to materialize, that the greater the blessing, the longer the wait. But what if time is only an illusion? What if the moment you truly believe, the moment you shift your awareness, the moment you fully accept that it is already done, that is the moment it becomes your reality? What if the only thing delaying your breakthrough is the very belief that it is still ahead of you? You must no longer live in the mindset of waiting. Waiting implies lack. It implies that something is missing. But nothing is missing. The only thing required is your recognition of what already is. When you shift from the consciousness of waiting to the consciousness of receiving, you open the floodgates. You allow divine timing to bring forth in perfect order that which was always yours. Every delay you perceive is not a delay at all. It is divine orchestration. It is the unseen working in your favor, rearranging what must be rearranged, removing what no longer serves you, aligning every detail to match the vision you hold within. But the greatest mistake people make is assuming that because they do not see movement, nothing is happening. That is why they give up too soon. That is why they question God's timing. That is why they step out of alignment and fall back into the state of longing rather than the state of fulfillment. You must remain unwavering. You must hold to the vision. You must refuse to be moved by what your eyes see and instead stand firm in what your spirit knows. This is the secret. This is the key. The moment you truly accept that it is done, without question, without doubt, without fear, that is the moment your reality shifts. But you must persist. You must refuse to let external circumstances shake your inner knowing. You must walk, speak, and move as though your breakthrough has already happened, because in the divine realm it has. God's timing is not about delay. It is about perfection. It is about divine order. It is about ensuring that what you receive is not only what you desire, but what is best for you. If you knew the full picture, if you saw all the moving pieces, if you understood the depth of what is being arranged for you, you would not doubt for a single moment. You would rest in absolute peace. You would walk in unshakable confidence. You would stop asking, when will it happen? And instead say, thank you, Lord, for it is already done. This is the shift that changes everything. When you thank God in advance, when you live in the awareness that it is already accomplished, You no longer operate from desperation. You no longer beg, you no longer strive, you rest, you trust, you move with assurance. And it is this state of being that allows divine timing to bring forth what has been promised to you. Most people are too focused on time. They watch the clock, they measure their progress, they compare themselves to others, and in doing so they create resistance. They allow impatience to rob them of their peace. But you are called to move differently. You are called to step outside of time, to see beyond what is visible, to recognize that what you seek is already yours in the unseen realm. And when you hold that knowing without wavering, the unseen must become seen. It is law. God is not withholding your breakthrough. It is not something you must earn. It is not something you must struggle for. It is something you must align with. The moment you fully align with it, through your thoughts, your words, your emotions, your faith, that is the moment it appears. That is the moment it becomes tangible. That is the moment everything shifts. You must not allow fear to steal what is already yours. Fear will whisper that it is taking too long. Fear will try to convince you that it is not meant for you. Fear will attempt to plant doubt in your heart. But you must recognize fear for what it is, a distraction, an illusion, a test. Every time fear arises, it is an opportunity to choose faith instead. Every time doubt knocks, it is an opportunity to stand even firmer in the knowing that it is done. You have already won. You are already victorious. You are already standing in the reality of your breakthrough. The only thing left is for you to fully claim it. To claim it not just with words, but with absolute conviction. To claim it with the way you think, with the way you feel, with the way you move through life. This is the difference between those who manifest their desires and those who continue to wait. Those who manifest do not see their desires as distant. They see them as already accomplished. They do not ask, they thank. They do not wish, they know. Your breakthrough is not coming, it is here, right now, in this moment. You need only step into it. You need only accept it. You need only believe without question, without hesitation, without doubt. The moment you do, you will see that it was never far from you. It was always within you. It was always waiting for you to recognize it, to claim it, to step into the reality that was yours all along. There is no need to strive, no need to push, no need to force anything into being. What belongs to you is already written into the fabric of your existence. It is not outside of you waiting for you to reach it. It is within you waiting for you to align with it. The moment you stop seeking, the moment you stop trying to control how and when it will arrive, that is the moment everything flows effortlessly into your life. You were never meant to chase after blessings. You were never meant to beg for what is already yours. You were meant to stand in certainty, to walk in the assurance that what God has promised is already complete. If you could truly grasp this truth, if you could allow yourself to live from this knowing, you would never again experience doubt. You would never again wonder if it will happen, if you are worthy, if it is possible. Those thoughts do not exist in the mind of someone who understands divine timing. Those who walk in divine authority know that what they decree must come to pass. They do not waver. They do not question. They do not hesitate. They declare it done, and because they do, it becomes so. You are being prepared for what you have asked for. This preparation is not punishment. This waiting period is not delay. It is a process of refinement, of alignment, of ensuring that when your breakthrough arrives, you are in full readiness to receive it. Some people receive too soon and are not able to hold on to what was given. They lack the foundation, the wisdom, the strength to sustain the blessing. But that will not be your story. You are being positioned perfectly. You are being strengthened in ways you cannot yet see. You are being refined for a level of abundance, success, and peace that you would not have been able to carry had it arrived any sooner. Your only task is to trust. Trust the unseen, trust the process, trust the divine orchestration that is moving everything into place. The mind will try to interfere. It will attempt to analyze, to question, to control. But your breakthrough does not come through logic. It does not come through overthinking. It comes through surrender. It comes through unwavering belief. It comes through stepping so fully into the feeling of already having received it that the physical world has no choice but to reflect it back to you. Close your eyes and see it now. Not as something you hope for, not as something you wish to happen, but as something already done. Feel the joy of it. Feel the relief of it. Feel the gratitude as though it has already manifested in your life. Hold on to that feeling. Do not let it waver. Do not let circumstances shake you. Do not let external noise convince you otherwise. What you feel deeply, consistently, and unwaveringly must become your reality. It is lost. Most people allow what they see to dictate what they believe. They allow the absence of physical proof to convince them that it is not working, that nothing is happening, that their breakthrough is far away. But the truth is, everything begins in the unseen. Everything starts as a seed in the spiritual before it is made visible in the physical. If you plant a seed in the ground and do not immediately see the plant, do you dig it up in frustration? No, you trust the process. You know that below the surface something is happening. The roots are forming, the foundation is being set, the unseen work is taking place, so that in perfect timing it will break through the soil. Your breakthrough is no different. It is already taking form. It is already growing beneath the surface. Just because you cannot see it yet does not mean it is not happening. Just because there is no visible evidence does not mean the promise is not being fulfilled. You must hold firm in the knowing that what is unseen is more real than what is seen. What you feel in your spirit is more true than what you witness with your eyes. Do not allow temporary circumstances to dictate eternal truths. Do not allow passing moments to shake your faith in what is permanent. You were created with power. You were designed to call things into existence. You were given the ability to speak life, to declare things as done before they are seen. This is your divine right. This is the truth that separates those who manifest from those who wait indefinitely. Those who manifest do not hope. They know. They do not wish. They declare. They do not ask repeatedly. They give thanks in advance. Right now, in this moment, you have a choice. You can continue to wait, to wonder, to question, to doubt, or you can step fully into the reality that it is already done. You can decide that your breakthrough is not coming, it has arrived. You can choose to live in the fulfillment of the promise rather than the longing for it. When you do this, when you make this shift, when you stand in complete faith, you will watch as everything falls perfectly into place. Your only task is to remain unwavering, to trust so completely that nothing can move you, to hold on to the vision so firmly that no outside force can shake it from your heart, to carry the feeling of having already received so strongly that the physical world must align to match it. When you do this, when you step into this level of faith, when you walk with the certainty of someone who knows that divine timing is never late, you will look around and realize that your breakthrough was never far away. It was always here, waiting for you to claim it. And so I leave you with this truth. Your breakthrough is not in the distance, not something to be chased, not something uncertain. It is already yours. It is unfolding in divine timing, moving toward you as surely as the sun rises each day. The only thing required of you is unwavering faith, a heart that trusts beyond what the eyes can see, and a spirit that aligns with the reality of already receiving. Walk forward in certainty, stand firm in your knowing. Do not waver, do not doubt, do not let the noise of the world shake what you hold within. The moment you fully accept that what is meant for you is already done, you will see it manifest effortlessly. Your breakthrough is here. Trust it. Receive it, give thanks for it, and watch as it becomes your reality.